Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, galimera, galispera, galinichta, no matter where in the world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your beautiful day. FA Cup's coming up, but there's a lot to discuss. Arsenal in the news, dominating the headlines. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, no matter where in the world you might be. Welcome to the Highbury Squad. Thank you so much for making us part of your day. I apologize for the delay. Magic Mike is having technical issues. No, he hasn't electrocuted himself in his hot tub. And it is very unusual for Magic to be having any technical issues. He's absolutely dying right now, but I'm sure he'll figure it out and find his way into the show. It would so rude of me to not acknowledge you. At ease, squaddies, at ease. I always lose my marbles when Super Kev is not here, but he is here, as you know. When he's not here live, he is still here, and you'll be hearing from him in just a little bit. Let's get some of your messages up. Lynn, one of my favorites. Evening, Sophie. Hope you and Tony are feeling better. I am. I'm wearing a little scarf today to keep my neck warm. I've got to say, I've been battling through this week. I haven't felt the best, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to dive right back in. Michael Phelps. And just get on with it, right? That's how the Greeks were taught. My dad used to go to work with a cold, a fever, and all sorts back in the day. You know, that's how they used to do things. Let's say good evening to a few people. Hello, Trev. Hello, Guna Rose. Good evening, Mark. Hey, Soap's in the house. On the road. Grease Lightning. Oh, yes. Newman in the house. I've handed hardly any yellows and reds out this season. Have you noticed? Super Kev is right. Winning cures absolutely everything. Matty K in the house. Oh, we're going to get to that. We are going to get to that. And we're going to get to these Muppets as well. We're going to cover it all. Lone Star, good evening from how's Texas? It's been stormy and rainy and cold here in California. I don't know how it is where you are. Let me know where in the world you are. Let's get your flags up. Let's get your hometowns up. Let's just get it all up. Brady's Banana. Oh, you are going to like our special guest next week. Oh, wow. Do I have a treat for you guys? Stop. Don't say I don't do nice things for you. Stay tuned until the end of the show to find out who is on the show next week. It's beyond special. We've delivered the goods this week. You've had Rebecca Lowe. You've had Warren Barton. You've had John Harkes. You've had Clive Palmer. You've had Elliot, the Arsenal Vision Boys. You've had Super Kevin Campbell. I mean, I'm just going to say I'm going to keep delivering the goods to you. Right, let's get stuck into it. Yes, they're still checking. Alison, good evening. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Squad Central. Okay, let's get started, shall we? We'll wait for Mike. He'll jump in when he can. As you guys know, I was critical of Mikel Arteta. Critical. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's do this first. I love this. Oh, this is my favorite. Gonna talk. Maybe Tom should jump in and join me because Magic Mike, his technology's failed him. He's totally let down. I don't know where he is. Right now, he's just trying to figure his whatever out. Tom Canton in the house. Good evening to the master, Mr. Tom Canton. If you do not subscribe to the Guna Talk, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your Arsenal life? I'm sure all of you do. 8 a.m. shows. Tom is smashing it. He's in bed. Don't tell me you're not well. Or are you just in bed? By the way, when you crack a Chinese cookie after your meal, remember when you crack it open and you read it, you have to add in bed to the end of whatever it is you're reading out. You should have so much joy and appreciation of people in bed. Your life is about to take an amazing turn in bed. You get the picture, right? Yeah, of course. Smash the like button, as Soph says. We got Boston in the house. We got Kuwait in the house. We got Germany in the house. We got Canada in the house. We got Orlando and Aston Mac in the house. You may have to deputize for your mate who is finding it very difficult to get online this evening. We got Trinidad in the house. Absolutely love it. Listen, thanks for joining. Let's talk about the Arsenal. There's something that's really pissed me off. All right. And as you guys know, I was a harsh critic of our manager, Mikel Arteta, when he first joined the club. And I felt that, you know, when you finish 8th and 8th, I don't think I need to repeat myself. You guys, I'm sure, think I sound like a broken record when I talk about the fact that, you know, he did underachieve. And at the same time, he'd never had his players. He inherited a broken team the same way Emery did, right? We've talked about this honestly and openly for quite some time. And, you know, when you started that following season after 8th and 8th, and then you go 0-0 after 3 games, 0 goes 0 wins, 0-0s, all the big, fat, juicy zeros, I think that the criticism was warranted. But if you are an Arsenal fan right now and you are still kind of poo-pooing the manager, I don't know what to say to you. But I feel like we're more united than ever as a fan base. But what's happened since the Newcastle game, I find a little unsavory and deliberate, right? I understand in some ways why he is getting criticized, because I've said this before on the show. Arsenal Football Club have to earn their respect back in the Premier League. People have mistaken us being a small club because our Premier League form has been quite atrocious since we've won it. And you can come at me if you think qualifying for top 4 was great. It was, but we didn't do anything with that. We didn't reinvest the money. We didn't really take the baton and try and grow and build on having players like Alexis Sanchez and Santi and Mesut Ozil. But right now where we're at, I think we've proven that. Let me just finish that final thought. When people mistake you from being a poor Premier League team for a big club, that's a big thing. Liverpool Football Club hadn't won the league for 30 years. They were still a big club, massive club. They just weren't doing it in the Premier League. Arsenal Football Club haven't done it in the Premier League for years. Doesn't mean that we're not a big club. And I think what's happening right now is that the same thing with Liverpool. They came back and, you know, their fans don't do themselves any favors. But at the same time, when Liverpool come back, they get a lot of criticism, but they get a lot of love. Arsenal Football Club are on the rise again, and folks don't like it. Speaking of don't like, look at you being late. What the heck?
I wasn't late. I was early. I have a computer that is so mad at me right now. I could start an entire version of social media, an entire server, and I can't even get on the StreamYard. But
let me tell you that Thunder Road is
sorry.
actually suggesting that Josh from A Burkamp Wonderland is more reliable than you.
He is not. I can tell you he's not. He's very unreliable. He's lost 8 jobs because of being late. I have no idea whether that's true or not. All I know is that he keeps moving from Brighton to up north and then back to Brighton again. So I don't think he's reliable at all.
We've just gone through all the locations and countries.
Yes,
We're going to add a few more.
I've been listening in.
Oh, you've been listening. Right.
With bated breath, whatever that is. I think it's bad breath because that's what I'm normally accused of. But
you're looking good.
I apologize. I had to lose a couple more pounds before I jumped on the camera. That was really what it was about.
Aston was worried you're going to miss your own pod, and
I might still do that. We'll see.
And look who's in the house from his bed listening. Hey?
Yeah, someone you almost gave my spot to.
I mean,
thanks.
so you were listening. That's great. That's what he did.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see
Mike,
if we're still going to lunch now in a few weeks.
We'll get to all of that at the end. I was just talking about the title of the show is the Vendetta against Arteta, but we've also got some other bits and bobs on our agenda, of course. And I just find it really okay. Here's where I'm at. Do I want Arteta to be just a tad calmer on the touchline as this final act of the season ensues? I do. Because we have a very young team, and that I love passion. Don't get me wrong. I want him to be passionate. I want him to just go bananas and crazy. But I also want him to have this calmness about him because we still have a young team. And I don't want that to translate onto the pitch, Mike. And I don't want Arteta to be red carded and end up in the stands because that's the last thing this team needs. You've seen it when there's a break in a game, where there's an injury. What does he do? He brings everyone in. He huddles. The influence that he has from the touchline with this team is immense. Now, Kev will tell you that players don't even hear what they're saying. You know,
Yeah, it's all for show.
But he does have moments when he pulls them in, and I think those moments are important for our particular squad. We saw it with the water breaks during COVID and everything, right? But this Vendetta of Richard Keys, and Matty K sent me this. And by the way, I don't know if you guys heard or didn't hear Martin Keown on TalkSport today. If you didn't, you should go back and listen to the show.
I've seen of it. I have not heard the exact words yet, but I'm aware
so
that
he
has strongly defended Arsenal finally.
Right. So Richard Keys said Arteta is a clown, right? And Martin Keown's response was, Richard Keys, is he still working? He's just trying to create a headline because he's the other side of the world and no one is really listening. It was two-footed studs up old school Gooner style. Mike, where do you stand with all of this? What's your take on the attack I feel on Mikel? Even though I feel like he does need to chill just a little bit, I find the attacks on him are indicative of what Kev's been saying for so long from even the George Graham days. It's us against the world.
All right. So much to unpack, starting with the fact that can you please get Tom's comment off the screen because I'm tired of him getting this much airtime when I'm
going to put little so Richard Keys can do one.
Well, Sophie, you can keep on. Yeah, well, he can do one. And that's apparently what he thought when his daughters and friends came over. But, he said, oh, I can do one. Anyway.
Did I know? Wait, did you not get the rules of the show before you came on?
Am I not allowed to bring that up?
I mean, that's a Gooners podcast kind of comment, not a Highbury Squad comment.
It would be a Gooners podcast to make something like that up and call it fact. But okay, anyway, I thought the show was all about the facts. Positive, negative, whatever it may be. Sorry.
Go on.
Maybe I should have. Wait, my computer just messed up. All right, so the one thing that I agree with you about the most is that I don't want manic behavior translating into confusion through the players. I don't want players losing poise and maybe losing discipline and a clear formulation of what the goal is and then the task at hand because the manager's jumping around on the sideline. Here's what I don't want. I don't want to be watching my football team play and literally going into situations where all I'm watching is the touchline because like I took a picture and tweeted it out in Milan when Arsenal was playing AC Milan in the first leg of the Europa League, a game we won 2-0. And I was so amazed that I saw Arsene Wenger walking up and down on the sideline instead of just sitting in that seat with his coat on. And, and it was notable in that he got up and showed a little bit of intensity. And I'm not saying he wasn't intense. We all know how seriously Arsene Wenger took his coaching job and his football to the point where it affected his personal relationships. So it isn't about his dedication. It's just about, animosity and the ability to kind of work the situation. Now, if it's jokingly ridiculous stuff, if it's Paolo Di Canio level stuff, where he's doing knee slides in a suit with like a 14 waist and jumping up into, hugging his players at the corner flag after a goal. That is a little, cartoonish. But and hello everyone to the chat. Thank you for the wonderful welcome. But when it is warranted, I think part of our issue is this view of us being kind of pushovers, both on the pitch and off of it. We'll take what's coming to us, whether there's a vendetta or not. We'll just shut up and take it. And I think, you don't fight back. You don't get people to stop fighting you. And so I think it's a part of the overall hardification of the team that we're not just sitting down and letting people bend us over anymore. And I'm sorry if that's not allowed on the show either, but so, it depends on what the animation is. And I mean, Richard Keys and what was it? Chris Sutton, shocker that he also had something to say about it. I think you're muted, or I can't, you don't look muted.
John Cross went 2-footed as well. I mean, well, mass. Well, now
shocker.
Wenger's not there. John Cross is showing his true colors, isn't he? Yeah, sure, fine. I said that out loud.
Let's get Mark Irwin involved in this fun as well. I mean, he hasn't written anything yet, but I'm sure he will, and then he'll be shaking hands with the Arsenal communications team tomorrow. But the point is that it really depends on what it is. If there's absolute BS going on the pitch, I would rather him go a little overboard than go a little underboard on that. Because it may not just be about the one game. It may not be about the FA charge, which is a joke, that it's only us. And a red card would be disappointing because of the games coming up and that he'd miss them. But I mean, I'd rather see us fight back a little bit than that. Don't follow me there because that's not our Twitter handle.
The Goners.
The Goners. We might be the Goners. Should we just
show that one more time?
Those guys are really good, though. The Goners pod.
A typo on my behalf. Oh my god, that's listen. I've been ill and I'm tired. I can't believe I've gotten through the week. But Mike, can I just throw something? Can I just throw something in? There you go. Look at that. It's the good.
Yeah, baby.
I wanted to. Yeah, Sutton always hated us. Well said. I'll change all. I'm going to read this one to you because where is it? Well, I've got a few. Let me just get through them because the squaddies have made Ecal. They hate everything Arsenal. They did the same to Wenger. They don't want us to win. That's why they always employ Northern referees in Manchester to officiate our matches. Let me tell you something.
That's all there are, really.
Gunnar Russ was on this show a year ago, if you guys remember, and he had a list of the referees who have officiated Arsenal games over a period of 18 months. There was one from Southern England. One.
Well, of the 20, old white boy club members that make up the Premier League, the PGMOL active referees, and I know 20. There'd be 10 doing every game, and then the fourth official on the side. Of those, let's call it 20 people. I think 18 of them are all from what the street signs call the North, and the location bias is unbelievable. The inherent bias towards specific teams that, generally speaking, have had much more English cores than Arsenal. I said this on our show a day or two ago, and just saying that reminds me of the clip that Fergus sent us this morning.
So good.
Oh, so funny. I think it started in the Arsene Wenger years when, in the late 90s and the early 2000s when...
Kev will tell you it started way before then.
He'd know, but I think it really just became an unconscious bias thing, and in some cases a conscious bias thing when in two different stages. One was the Arsene Wenger stage where we changed the game and did it mostly with players and coaches and strategies that came from outside England. We changed the game for the better, certainly for the better for Arsenal. And I think that's, that aspect of it started it. And then what has propelled it exponentially to another level is social media, where, we have proven as a fan base in general, collectively, to be extremely easy to trigger and to predict.
Is it trigger, or do we just find it now that we've become mama bears and we love where we're going and we're all together and we're defending our club?
Well, no, I think it trigger, I think, is the right word, because because that can apply to a lot of different phases of our last 5 to 10 years. The phase where we were losing and where we were always coming up short in the transfer market, and and against our owner in a very, very loud way. It was very easy to trigger us, because all you had to do was mention examples of this or tantalize us into something that might possibly change the trend, and we would read it and we would react strongly to it. Now it's the same thing. Oh, they're happy now with their team's performance, so we have to go a different route in order to trigger these people, in order to get them to click, in order to get them to respond and engage and see our adverts. And we're now going to just talk about how they're too happy about their success. I mean, it's really, I mean, to say that they're being, I'm so cautious now not to say a word that I'm going to forget. They're being very, very dubious and diabolical. They're being diabolical towards us because they know that that's the best way to continue to engage us. And, it's smart on their part.
Okay. So we got to rifle through a whole bunch of things. We're 20 minutes in. You were 10 minutes dealing with your technology, right? And there's a show at 10 o'clock.
You through some of the minutes of our pod.
That's fine. So I'm going to rattle through these comments. I'm going to read them. But one of my hunches here, and I've said, is that the Arsenal Football Club have fallen so far in the Premier League. Still a massive club, still behind like top 3 clubs in England: Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal Football Club. I've told you guys before, Manchester City are a small club doing big, big things. They are growing into a big club. They are not a big club. They can't even sell out Champions League matches. You guys can't get tickets to Bournemouth. This is Arsenal Football Club come to the United States and they smash it.
I'm considering going to see the City Tottenham game. I don't know why. I probably won't. But while I'm over, we might, because I love the city of Manchester.
You want to come with me to West Ham Everton?
Well, it's West. Anyway. No, it's not West Ham Everton. It's West Ham Everton in the owner's box, or whatever you said that time. You had to add
we'll
that.
We'll get to that at the end.
No, but my point is that as of yesterday, tickets are still available for that game through the team.
Yeah,
for City Spurs.
Yeah,
at
people mistake Arsenal Football Club doing nothing in the Premier League versus being a big club. Now we're starting to find our feet again in the Premier League, and people are shook. And I will give someone credit for this. Terry Flewers, is that how you pronounce Terry's last name? Yeah. Terry Flewers has been highlighting this now for 2 months. All right, he's not an Arsenal fan. He's a Manchester United fan, right? And he's been pointing this out, talking about how people are scared of the Arsenal, that they're scared that we're coming back. Look at what people are saying. You guys are smart enough to know when you are totally engulfed with clickbait, right? And there is something real about this. All right. Richard Keys going out of his way to post everything that he does about Mikel. Chris Sutton's comments, Gary Neville, he can't wait for us to fall. He cannot, Mike.
It's marketing strategy. It's the same thing as certain YouTubers that I won't mention the name of, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. It is a marketing strategy to gain attention, which is a means to an end of gaining either income, influence, or professional legitimacy. And I mean, whether he actually feels these things or not, if he feels them, it might be subconscious because he's realized that it does positive things for him. But I didn't know who Richard Keys was a year ago. I know all about him now. So, I mean, mission accomplished if you're Richard Keys.
Yeah, I mean, we've known. Dublin Gooner, it's, I'm just saying, I want to go to as many football games as I can. I was presented with a wonderful opportunity And you know what? When I get to see a game, I'll go see a game because I love the.
I do the same thing. I'll go to almost any game I can. We're going to QPR that same day because and you can still come to that if you don't want prawns that day. But you don't fancy prawn sandwiches. But I just love all the different stadiums. People always, it's always people who live in and around London that are like, why would you go to QPR against Cardiff? And I'm like, because I love Loftus Road, and I don't get this kind of football over where I live, and Arsenal's not playing today. Sorry.
Exactly. Okay, 150 of you in live chat on a Friday evening, where a lot of you are out having a good time. Thank you for joining us, myself and Magic. We're going to rifle through this, and I'm going to rifle through these comments so we can get to our next set, because there's a few bits I want to get out of you today, and I have a special video from Super Kev as well, and a special announcement to make at the end of the show. And Vinny's excited now. Dear God.
Vinny!
Hey, Vinny. Okay, so Boy says 8th and 8th and being in relegation form heading into December one season and then November the next is indeed sackable. Alison says when managers behave like that, it's called passion. Arteta is called a clown. Interesting how biased. Alison, do you know why I think? It's because the other managers have won. Mourinho's won the big one. Jurgen's won the big one. Pep has won the big one. Antonio's won the big one. And they see Arteta as the little boy.
Can we go back one comment to the previous one? Okay, Boy Tendio, if that is your real name, in fact.
Boy's in here often. He's legit. He's legit.
Okay. Yeah. Boy. Look, Boy. No, I'm. What place was Arsenal in when Arteta took over the team? It was not 8th. It was not 4th. It was 15th, I believe. And so, look, to just nitpicking a little bit, to credit Arteta with an 8th place finish in his first year and in the second year is not exactly accurate. He improved the team in his first year slightly, and in the second year it was an S show. That was a legitimate awful 8th place finish. But I think now we've seen, with the perspective of the extra 2 or 3 years since then, kind of why we finished 8th. Why we didn't, manage to finish in the top 4. And I think you have to look at that in perspective. And I'm very grateful that Arsenal's management team looked at that in the proper perspective and said, yeah, we're an 8th place team. We shouldn't be an 8th place team, but with what we have right now and with the constraints that some of these contracts are doing on us, we're an 8th place team. But but don't act like he took over the team and had a couple transfers and then finished 8th twice in a row, because that's not.
To be honest with you, both managers inherited an institutional mess. One had finished better.
The second year he finished 8th. They had such a bad start that they were again in 15th place, and over the final 25 games of the season, they were the third best team, which counts for nothing. They finished 8th, but still, I mean, you sack a guy for finishing 8th when the last 26 games he might have lost 4 of them or something like that, or 5 of them, and they ran up the table to 8th from 15th. There's context. I mean, put some nuance into it, and yeah, in a general situation, someone finishing 8th twice is a sackable effect, but that's not exactly how.
Are you going to answer each question that, because we're going to run out of time?
No. Okay. Just the ones that are.
Remember, I just said punch, right? Punch, right? Bosh. Right, Mark B. Last season we were critical of not appealing decisions and accepting wrong decisions. I'm happy with the passion shown. I want our players on the pitch. What happened, Mike? Newcastle players realized the ref is there for the taking, and they bullied him the whole game. And what did they do? They surrounded him, and who got booked? Our captain. They all went for the ref, and Martio Odegaard got booked. Our team need to put pressure on. Now, when you got a yellow card as a player, you don't want to be doing that. But then identify players who can do that. We need to master the dark arts just a little bit more. I'm going to read these. I think what Arteta knows exactly is what at stake. He's achieved more at this stage, and he could imagine both. Yeah, I mean, look, he's won the FA Cup. Let's be honest here. He's not, the jury's still out on the big picture front. Arteta has the nice. There's a Texan right there.
Headline writer.
Keys to victory. I like it. The bloke's as relevant as Tottenham, says Matty K. Boy comes back and says he gets cheered when pulling his imagery. Da, da, da. Yeah, but remember what I said? He gets the respect because he's won it. That's the only difference. Klopp gets away with it. Again, the respect.
Arteta wins it this year. He's still not going to get the respect from the media or the referees.
Oh, I'll change. Oh, no. Mike, I've been saying on this show, if he wins it in this environment with those managers, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Antonio Conte, you had Thomas Tuchel before.
He'll get respect from smart people without agenda.
It is the new generation. It's the Ashburton Army's 89 and Invincible season. It is their Invincibles and 89 season. And you know what? There's nothing more I would like than little Soph and the Ashburton Army and all of the young fans to feel and know what it's like to win the league.
Oh my God, I agree with you 100% on that. I'm just saying that's not going to make Richard Keys respect Mikel Arteta.
I don't care about him. I'm talking about the Henry Winters, the Jonathan Lews. I'm talking about Ollie Holtz. I'm talking about like top tier journalists.
Yeah,
you know,
they will. Gab Marcotti will give us our props. Those guys will do it. But yeah, I mean the people who cash in on Arsenal fans' expense and the club's expense aren't going to suddenly respect Mikel Arteta, even if he wins the double with the Premier League and Europa League this season.
I'm telling you right now, I think the respect will come because you've got to. It's like that book,
Jamie
right?
O'Hara's
My piece of cheese. My piece of cheese. Yeah, Gunnar Rose. There's fans like Gunnar Rose that really don't care what the media says, and I just wanted to address it because I want Arsenal fans to stick together here. No matter, like, even though I think he needs to tone it down a bit, stick together. Let's fight them off. Like one of those old kung fu arcade games, Mike. What did you used to call those kung fu games?
Oh, there was
fight. The one that started off that was like fight, and then you go. What was that game?
I'm such an idiot. James Johnstone would know. It's there was like
he's
Double
in the chat.
Dragon and what was that one they made the movie out of? Shit. Sorry. I don't remember.
Archangel
I'm a
says
lover,
EPL,
not a fighter. I would never play games like that because I'm a lover, not a street fighter. Mortal Kombat. And James is in here.
You like how we're just Jewish and Greek? We're all talking at the same time. This is how we roll, me and Magic. We were arguing the other day who has the better cuisine. So, you know. I showed him my picture of me and Mel Brooks, and he was like, "Yeah, sure."
Even I can't argue that Jewish cuisine is better than Greek. I mean, I'm not going there. I was just trying to, stand up for my people. James
Johnston, see, I told you he was in the house. Arsenal fans get triggered well easy. There's people who actually think, "Oh, I can't stand that." Listen, can we just go back to good old Arsenal? We're proud to say the name.
The 1980s are gone.
This song will win the game. No, I still matter. I'm a Generation X Arsenal fan. I still matter.
But you know what? I'm living in the present. So,
God, Street Fighter. That was the name of it. Street Fighter. Okay. It's of Rage, Mortal Kombat. See, this is how we get derailed on the Highbury Squad and on the Gooners pod as well.
Finish him.
You want your tactics board? Go to another show because you're not going to get it. I can't wait till
Brandon Jaka is just like standing there.
Mortal Kombat.
Goes, Finish him.
Finish him. Now that reminds me of Karate Kid with what's his name? What's the actor Martin Cove?
Ralph Macchio.
Sweep the leg. Sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg. Put him in a body bag.
That's what we should do in the North London derby to Harry Kane. Finish him.
Body bag. Sweep the leg and put him in a body
bag. No, not the body bag part. No, not that. All right. I'm going to keep putting your comments up here.
He doesn't have to be dead. We just put him in there so that he can't play. And then we can
Matthew.
I'm not promoting that.
So if I heard you on Tom's Eat, Sleep, Arsenal, Repeat podcast that maybe our players need to put pressure on the refs. Yes, I believe this.
How did Owen do on that podcast, by the way?
He's fantastic. He's getting lean and fit. And by the way, I never knew he was 6
foot. What, did his camera work? Did he get his camera fixed?
Yeah, he was on camera.
So it works on Tom's podcast.
Yeah, it works on Tom's. Well, it's Tom Canton. About podcast royalty. I mean,
You don't show up 10 minutes late for Tom's.
Okay, keep your comments.
You don't show up without your camera unless your name is Drew. I mean, it's, come on.
Sorry, still have the cough. Right. By the way, I forgot what I was going to say. Let's just move on. See, pills, sickness, it's all kicking in right now. Have a sip of tea, Soph. All right. Magic.
Yes.
Here we go on second subject. You ready?
I am ready.
I want to talk to you about buying my time right now because I send you the agenda. So
I got it. I've got it open.
Okay, what's next? What's next?
Transfers in 2 minutes. Want to skip that?
I mean,
we could just skip that by saying, look, we had Charles Watts on last night. All you got to do is go to the GoonerSubscribe.com, watch Charles Watts' show. You'll learn everything that you already knew, but hear it reinforced.
Just watch Tom's 8 a.m. show. What is my mic cutting out? Is it?
No.
Do you hear me cutting out?
I don't hear you cutting out.
I don't know what he's talking about. Anyway, all right. What's next on the agenda, Magic?
Maybe Newman's ears are cutting out. Yeah, I mean, we're either going to get Mudryk or we're not. We're either going to get Felix, Gal, whatever his name is, or not.
I feel like Man United are going to get him, don't you?
Who? Felix? I don't know. If they do, then he's going to suck. FA Cup starting 11. Did you want to do that?
Okay, so we got an FA Cup match coming up. Right, so let me know in the comments what you think about Mikel, the agenda with the media, and all of that. So before we move on, let's get to Kev's video because he's got a couple questions that will lead us into the conversation. All right. It's Freestyle Friday. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. That's the kind of show we're doing. And when Magic's here, anything can happen. Super Kevin Campbell.
Squaddies, how you doing? I hope you're well. Sophie, keep them in check while I'm not there. At ease. Quick couple of questions, Squaddies. I want to say congratulations to those who won the books as well and the coins throughout the year, last year. Well done. And right, let's get to the questions. What would be the minimum signings you would accept? That's one. And number two, there's a lot of negativity going on about the Newcastle game. Newcastle were defensively sound. They done everything to keep us out. And if it, we could have got a penalty or so. We didn't do enough in the final third, I thought. But what were the positives that you took out of that game? What were the positives? So that's two questions for you. All the very best. Look after yourself. Sorry I can't be there. I'm working tonight. Take good care, Squaddies. At ease, Squaddies. At ease.
At ease, Kev.
How much you love that he's wearing his Highbury Squad shirt.
It's beautiful. He represents. He represents. And it's not Thursday. I was going to put my my Dickie bow on, but
your boy Jared was drinking from his Highbury Squad mug.
Was he? Yeah, he buys all the merch except for ours. But and we do. We have merch on our Patreon page. Maybe we have to work on our pricing a little bit, but we have.
It makes my heart melt. Answer Kev's questions, Magic. What do you think? Question number one: the minimum
I would take. I mean, I always kind of smile at those questions and say, like it's not up for me to take. But if you're asking my opinion of what would make a successful transfer window, I would say 2, but again, I'd rather have 1 correct signing than 2 just for the sake of 2.
Well, what would your correct signing be?
I mean, I think think Mudryk is the right signing, and I think we're going to get him. I'm fairly confident about that because the player power usually doesn't end up with the player not winning, and it's clear what he wants to do. So I think we're going to end up with that one, and if we do, he might be the only one. It's not like us to spend 60 and 40 in the January transfer window on players. So if we do that one, I think we might wait till the summer on the rest of them, and that might leave a little bit of concern at the midfield position. Someone to maybe back up Thomas Partey in case we lose him. But I would take 2. I think there's a lot of players that are out of contract this summer that should be able to be cheaply obtained if we're willing to just, to to snag them now at a depressed price. Tielemans is one of those, but that just doesn't seem to be going
You sound
anywhere.
depressed. What are you talking about? What is? Come on, Magic. Wait, like we need players. We want to win the league, mate. Come on. We need to.
I'm just being realistic. The summer is the time to make the massive improvement. I think we've learned a bit of a lesson, and part of that lesson was, we blew the top four at the end last January, but we learned a lesson from January that it enabled us to do what we did this summer. And if we don't see an improvement in the team with our new players from last spring to this fall, this autumn, whatever we call it over there, then you're blind. I mean, so January and May are kind of strange because you feel like you have to just go for the league, and we should go for the league. But if the players that we need are not available, then I don't really know what to say. I mean, what I do think is that Arsenal,
they are available. It's whether or not we're willing to pay the price for them, right? So I said on Lee's show yesterday, what Mudryk is available. He is
an example of that.
If he comes in and scores 4 goals that make the difference between 3 points and 1 point, and we win the league, it's a great return on investment. You're a businessman.
And what if we spend 88 million pounds instead of 62 million pounds, and that doesn't happen?
Well, we were patient with Mikel Arteta. Why wouldn't we be patient with Mudryk?
Well, I agree with that. I'm not opposed. I guess my issue is that I'm pretty much in a position where Mikel Arteta and Edu have earned my trust on their valuations of players. And if you think I'm saying that we don't need players, I'm just not so super stressed.
You sound like the president, the Prime Minister of England. He was sitting on a toilet the other day giving a speech. I'm like, what is that? That totally looks like a Magic Mike moment. What the F is that
sitting
about?
On a toilet.
He was sitting on a toilet and he did a video. I didn't even know what it was about. I just saw him like, why is he sitting on a toilet?
Was he sitting on a toilet, or was he using the toilet?
He was sitting on a toilet delivering a message. And I'm like, that is a Gooners podcast type video.
I've actually done, I did a segment from a urinal once, but
I mean, and I agree with this, like Tehran, if you can't go be smart, Trossard, Tielemans, Zaha.
I would love to have Trossard. I'd almost rather have him than Mudryk at this point, but for the age difference. Look,
I'm saying we're not what I was saying to Lee was and Dan was like, we're not a Band-Aid club. We won't do those deals if we don't really feel those players are long-term. Arsenal are long-term, but you also have to adapt. This is the time. This is the moment. I totally back the owners. I totally back Mikel and Edu. But I also said, if it comes to the end of January and we are in the same position as last January, failure.
Here's what I have said, and as recently as yesterday, is unless it's being done behind closed doors, and if it was being done behind closed doors last year, then they failed. And we'll see whether it's being done now. What I fault Arsenal for not doing, or not seeming to be doing, is having a larger list of players that would add to our squad, who more than likely can be tempted to come, perhaps have some feelers and connections out to them, to the way that everybody taps up everybody, to know that, look, if Shakhtar Donetsk is just going to be obstinate. And
who cares, Mike? Pay him 88 million. The player is a beast. He's the fastest white man I've ever seen.
If they think he's worth 88 million, then I fully support doing that. I know, Arnie, it's not my money. I'm not saying that we need to conserve that 20 million for somebody else, or for the Cronkies or anything like that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't spend the 88 million. I'm saying if they determine that they're not going to spend the 88 million, they should have backup number 1, backup number 2, backup plan number 3, 4, and 5, so that we're not still sitting here on January 29th finding out that Shakhtar really are just going to play hardball. They're not going to sell him for anything less than that. They'd rather just hold on to him and let him be miserable there. And then we're, it's too late for us to make a move. That's what I think we suffered from last year. We didn't have
Listen,
any.
Mike, I defended the owners on the show yesterday, and I said, like, if they are ambitious as they've shown with their US teams, they will put the money behind Mikel and they will give him what he needs. It was so glaringly obvious. And Kev's second question was about the Newcastle game. And of course, it was tough. It was a scrap. It was a street fight. They didn't come to play football. They came to play handbags at dawn. And we got sucked into it. We couldn't play our game. Our creative players were nullified. They did a phenomenal job. Let's give them credit. But what was the positive you took out of that, considering our manager made one substitution from the bench?
The positive I took out of it is that we didn't lose. I mean, those are games where when the other team pulls off their S-housery and successfully is able to accomplish what they came there to do because of a complete lack of oversight from the referee, those are games that we generally lose in the past, and lose to teams with a lot less talent and a lot less quality in them, coaching wise, performance, form, than Newcastle has. You know, in the Invincible League, we drew against a lot of teams a lot worse than third in the table, a lot worse than Newcastle. And you know, for that reason, I think that's a game where we showed the ability to. I mean, we didn't have enough in the final third, but we let absolutely nothing through in our final third. And you know, as a result, the positives to me, the defending, the fact that they didn't come to play football, and we tried. And you know, the negatives are obviously that we weren't able to overcome it. But if we were all sitting here having won 1-0 on a penalty, and there are maybe 2 or 3 situations where you could point to that should have been a penalty, we would not be talking about this as a game that we only were able to win because of a lucky penalty and what's wrong with the Arsenal.
No, I'm happy we got the point. I think it's amazing. When they got the corner in the 94th minute, I was like, uh-oh, here we go again. My PTSD totally kicked in. But the fact that we walked away with a point at home with the best defensive record team in the league, and let's be honest, so well organized, bruisers as well, big, bold, big boys. They're big boys.
I'm very aggravated we didn't win that game, but I can recognize why we didn't win that game. I can compartmentalize the fact that it was a tough opponent that not everybody, you know, easily beats. In fact, one team has beaten them this season. You know, I still don't think a draw was the right outcome. I think we did enough. I think they were absolutely manhandling and mugging us and pulling shirts and grabbing necks. And I mean, it's
the
absurd.
Gabrielle thing was a disgrace. That was a disgrace.
The whole thing is a disgrace. The Nketiah one was a disgrace. I don't think the handball at the end was a penalty, but the wrestling going on inside the box, it's absurd. And in any kind of a valid, non-corrupt vacuum where with perfectly, completely unbiased referees, we're talking about a game that, you know, the better team won because the other team had to resort to those kinds of tactics and ultimately got called on it. And we'd be saying, you know, what are the negatives of that 1-0 defeat, if you can think of any, instead of try to find one positive. So, you know, the positive is that with everything going against us that possibly could have, we didn't lose the game. And we move on. All right,
we'll take that. We'll take that in answer to Super Kevin Campbell, and he will be reviewing.
And as Dublin Gunner says, 2 players who we really needed to not get yellow cards in that game, else they would have missed the North London derby.
Yeah, that was a highlight too. Definitely. Okay, now your show is in 6 minutes. My show started late because you were late. We're 48 minutes in. Do you have 12 minutes to spare?
I owe you. That's the least that I owe you. So, Aston, if you're watching, we're going to start a little bit late.
Okay, so Stephen, by the way, in the house. Stephen was in. I just want to say, everyone, Stephen was in hospital over the holidays. Stephen raises money for the Children's Liver Foundation. He has a very serious liver issue. You guys know we gave him a coin to raise money. Please, everyone, send some love to Stephen. He's a wonderful young man. He wants to just feel better again so he can go back to talking Arsenal on his YouTube channel as well. So, Stephen, it's really good to see you in here, and it was great to chat to you earlier today as well.
Sure, you're not thinking of Stephen Featley?
Oh,
Steve Feely's the '89 shirt. I'm like, I didn't know
So I'm
Stephen
all,
was ill.
you know, that's the first time I've ever done that. But anyway, please go and see and say hello to Stephen Featley as well on Twitter and Instagram. And this is No Laguna in the house.
No,
He's my designer.
Steven's like,
Yeah,
oh my
wrong
God,
guy.
I have a liver disorder.
Okay, when I tell you guys I'm not well, I mean I'm not well. But here I am.
You scared me now because while I've always.
I know I saw your eyes go up, and I'm like, what? Okay, strike that.
I started
right,
writing
let's just
down.
Move on. Let's just end this show.
Writing down, reach out to Stephen after show.
I promised everyone a show on Friday, and Tony's like, "You're not well enough to do a show." I'm like, "I'm doing a show. It's happening." So here we are, and I'm mistaking listeners and shocking people and upsetting them, thinking like, you know, he's not well, but he is.
This is how most people find. I found out that I had a blood clot from troops. So he said like magic blood clot, Mike. And
Here's
I'm
the
like,
scoop,
oh my
though.
God,
Once I end this broadcast, I want every single one of you, all right, almost 200 of you in live chat, please help me do this. Please just click over to the Gooners podcast. It's not that difficult. These guys, I'm going to pop over there as well for the first few minutes to just say hi and hang out. So please just click over to the Gooners podcast. And next Tuesday, all right, I'm going to tell you guys this on Monday as well. Next Tuesday, there's going to be no Highbury Squad show. You know why? I'll tell you why. This guy here is doing a show, and he has got on his show Peter Drury. The blue moon has risen. I'm going to ask him if he's got an Arsenal one tucked up in his back pocket. And Lee Dixon judging, right, with me. I've been invited, and I feel very honored. The FA Cup phrases of all phrases. What is it, Mike? Tell him.
FA Cup of football phrases. Anything that normally would make me ring that bell is included on here. And we had the prelims last night. One of my favorite shows to do. And yesterday didn't disappoint. It was so much fun. We had Aston and Daniel Robert, who's been asking for the show for a year. So I brought him on. And James from AFTV. James, if you don't know James, he is solid, and he will change your mind if you have a preconceived notion about that channel. He will surprise you because he is such a solid dude. We judged the preliminary matches. We took 90 teams, 90 phrases, got them down to the final 64, and we're going to do the first round proper on Tuesday. I can't describe it. It's just so much fun. Talking about, you know, is sixes and sevens going to beat onion bag as English football phrase, and you have to analyze it like they're, you know, teams and people, and it gets very intense. Sometimes there's a little influence.
But I love that you have two of the premier commentators in football coming on.
Who better to judge on the phrases that we hear from commentators than Peter and Lee, who are the top commentating team here in the U.S. Who better to do that than them? And we needed another Englishish voice to be able to kind of break the ties and break the, you know, so I
love it. I'm honored to join. So Tuesday, I will remind them after Monday Madness as well. Okay. What else did we have? Our FA Cup starting 11. You got to just bust it out for us, Mike. What is your FA Cup starting 11?
Turner, Tomiyasu, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, Elneny, Lakanga, ESR, Marquinhos, Nketiah, Vieira.
You're playing Gabriel?
Yeah, who else are you going to play in that position?
Holding. Well,
Holding's playing for Saliba in my
No,
book.
Saliba has to play for me. Okay, so I've got Tommy, Holding, Saliba, because I think Saliba needs the minutes more than Gabriel. I think he needs to kind of get back into the groove of things.
The left-footed, left-sided. That's what I think. I think we're going to see.
Not sure about that. Yeah, I mean, I agree here. I would rest. I would play Xhaka, rest Saka, and rest Martinelli. So mine would be Tomiyasu. Now you've got me on the left foot thing, but Holding. Maybe he will rest Saliba. I don't know. Well, maybe. Gosh, you got me all confused now. Confucius.
I'm playing mind games with you.
I think Saliba has to play. I really do. I think he needs the minutes more than Gabriel. I play Tierney, play Elneny and Xhaka. and Marquinhos. Eddie has to play. He needs the goals, still the confidence, and Emil Smith-Rowe. I'm missing one player, aren't I?
Yeah, because with Emil Smith-Rowe in the 10, you're missing someone on the left.
I play Fabio Vieira.
That's I have either, you know, if ESR doesn't play, then Vieira's in the 10, and then I need someone on the left to play. But I think ESR is going to get the start in that one. I'm hopeful for.
Yeah, he has to, and if he's ready, he's got to start, because we're going to need him off the bench in the Premier League as well.
Our bench is going to be people with double-barreled names that you've never heard of before. That's
fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. I don't want us to toss the FA Cup though, Mike.
No, oh no, hell no. Definitely not in round 3.
You're wearing that white kit. Listen, I love the theme.
It's one game that we lost with it. It's one game that we lost.
One game's enough.
Game is not a trend to make. Look, I'm religious. I'm superstitious when it comes to uniforms. I don't wash them until we lose. I got right now I'm on a pink thing. But one game, I don't think you could really judge.
Right. Well, look, we're going to be back live after the FA Cup. Monday Madness will come at you at 10 p.m. on Monday, not 8 p.m. So look out for that. Look out for all the notifications in our community page on YouTube and Twitter. Oh, what are you laughing at?
Newman.
What's he done now?
Just took another opportunity to insult me.
Listen, where are my cards?
I'd be worried if he liked me though. So
yeah, that's what Kevin says. He worries about when he likes him and whatever. Right. What else do we have? What else do you have, Mike? Oh, real quick, I wanted to talk about the rule changes that have been discussed today. No replays for FA Cup, fielding under 21s for the League Cup, and I feel like this is to accommodate the expansion of the Champions League. It's to accommodate the expansion of the Club World Cup. And as much as I've stood by and defended the Cronkies, I'm sure that the Super League is going to come back at some stage. I am from England. I'm a born and bred Londoner. I love my FA Cup. I love my League Cup. Don't you dare try and take it away from me. And I'm not being prejudiced here in any way, you people. But I feel... I feel like, don't tell me about the FA Cup and the League Cup, Klopp and Conte and Pep and all these managers. This is our league. This is what we do. Talk to everyone else who's adding on fixtures. You don't complain about the extra Champions League fixtures or the Club World Cup stuff, do you? But no, you want to take away the League Cup teams that feed off this every year, that put it into their, Mike's the money man here, they put it into their budget. We're going to have X amount of league games, maybe. We're going to have X amount of FA Cup games, and you want to take it away from the smaller clubs. The magic of the FA Cup. I agree, maybe FA Cup replay. Okay, I will compromise on that front. Go straight to penalties or extra time and penalties.
But you got to change the finances though, because the FA Cup replays sometimes are the thing that, I mean, imagine if Oxford can draw against Arsenal and didn't get a chance then to have a game at Arsenal and split the ticket.
It's terrible, isn't it? Like, come on, what's your take, Mike?
But you can fix that with a change in how you distribute money. I mean, you don't have to just kind of pray for a minnow to draw at home against a big team and then, or to, you don't necessarily want for, Northampton Town to have to be hoping to play away from home against a big team as opposed to at home. That Sutton United game against Arsenal not only was incredibly exciting for Sutton United, it got a major fan of Sutton United, namely me, over to their side. And I've been to 5 or 6 games there since, because I actually really enjoyed their whole story and their club and their ground and all of that. So, you want those games to be at home. Sutton United could have flip-flopped and sold that game to Arsenal. We played at Arsenal and gotten a lot more money, but they wanted that game as a non-league club at Gander Green Lane. So,
what do you think of the David Dean comment about the clock countdown? By the way, everyone poo-pooed the World Cup and the added time. Huh? How do you like it now?
I like the added time. I had no problem with the added time, and I also would have no problem, although the traditionalist in me would change things a little bit. But I have no problem with a like a 65-minute clock that stops when the ball's out of play. That would kill the traditionalist, and it could change the end of games. when there's a buzzer that's getting ready to go off, but in the middle of an attack. But, you know, I just think we need to do those things are about getting rid of time wasting, which I think is a bigger problem than having this fluid thing where the game doesn't end on a corner kick or when there's a free kick. End the game. Because you had all those other 90 minutes or the 65 minutes of action. We had 53 minutes of action in that Newcastle
47
game.
minutes, apparently, according to Adrian. Adrian Clark said there should have been 10 minutes of added time.
Whereas 61 minutes are normally played of actual game action out of a 90. There were something like 47 or 53 in this game. And none of that would have happened if we had a clock that stops and starts. And I love the tradition, but this game has taken a lot of technological steps. I didn't say steps forward, but technological steps. This seems like a logical one to me, but I don't ever see FIFA or UEFA or any of them people employing that. But
okay,
because it takes away opportunities to favor one team over another.
Yeah, this is going to keep going, and we'll talk about it a little bit more next week with Super Kev. That's all we got time for today, people. We were going to do a bit of a Freestyle Friday section with TV and our recommendations for the week. We're going to save that for next week, and we'll have Mike send in his video for that. We've got some massive stuff coming up on the Highbury Squad. We've got a great guest coming up in the next week, and I'm so excited. I spoke to him on the phone today. He's the nicest man in the world, and I can't wait. Legendary manager of Arsenal ladies, the kit man during the Wenger years. We've got Vic Akers coming on the Highbury Squad to wax lyrical with Super Kev and talk about all sorts of stuff. It's just going to be magic.
You took another one from me. I've reached out to Vic a number of times. I've circled around him. One person warned me against it, but I was like, that's just that. No, I want to talk to that guy. And then I finally gave up because I gave up on life pretty much. No, I stopped podcasting as often. So no, look, I told you today when I talked to you earlier, when you get a guest that I've coveted, it's almost like me getting them because you interview them the way that I would and then some. And there's no more harder working, deserving person of top guests than you, and you do a great show with them. So I hope Vic has fun, and then maybe in 2028 you'll see Vic on the Gooners podcast.
Nice, that'd be great. Perfect stuff. Here's what we're going to do right now. Here's what we're going to do right now. Right now, you're going to close your browser and you're going to keep your YouTube. Well, that's not a good idea, is it? You're going to close this.
You could have. You can schedule to push people to another stream afterwards.
Oh, that's because way too much technology.
All you got to do is go to goonersubscribe.com and it goes directly to our YouTube page, and there'll be a show that says that we're live at 5, but here we are at 5:08 Eastern time. And yeah, we're going to talk about the week in review. So everybody get over there. If we see less than 200 and how many we have in the studio live right now?
Well, now it's down to 150 because people have maybe they're already going over there to wait for you.
People in our podcast, we're going
to. Also, we're going to have Demian on next week because we're going to do a very special show about Jordan Nobbs. And our Arsenal women are prepping to come back for their first league game after the break as well. And before we go, even though this is an Arsenal podcast, I just wanted to say something about Gianluca Vialli, who is someone who, just defined the beautiful game. I remember when Chelsea signed him, Mike, I was really jealous. When Chelsea was signing Ruud Gullit and Gianluca Vialli, I was a little bit jealous. But also at the time, in the 90s, when Wenger came, our signings became stars as well. But he defined. I loved watching that Sampdoria team play football. They were just so much fun to watch. And when you look at his resume and all the things that he won, and that moment at the Euros where he and Mancini hugged after they won it, just really special moments that just remind you why we love this game. And Gianluca Vialli was definitely a gentleman of the beautiful game. real quick, your thoughts on general.
Even if you lived far away and you didn't know much about the player, you definitely heard of the player. You knew who he was. And I've seen, I mean, when you see just literally 100% of people have positive opinions, you're the staunchest of opponents. You know, it says a lot about the man, and there aren't a lot of people who played for the teams that he did who are so respected by opponents of those teams. So yeah, R.I.P. to Gianluca Vialli. And while I'm not going to claim to be someone who knows a tremendous amount about him, he was an outstanding player and he was loved by all. So
yeah, and he managed Chelsea and he won a European trophy. He won the domestic trophies. He's
and these
won
ages of people dying are starting to get closer and closer to the ages.
Scary. Yeah. And also did a wonderful job at Juventus as well. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. Let's close this and let's hop over to Mike's channel, the Gooners Podcast. Let's carry this on. Each and every one of you, you're not out for Friday night, so there's no excuse. Let's whiz over, and Mike's going to close the show for us right now.
Thank you, Sophie, Squaddies. Come over to the Gooners Podcast, Goonersubscribe.com, Mastodon, all that stuff.
Stop it.
ArsenalFC.social. Get Sophie over there. And at ease, Squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Why are you still here?